Quick catch up, you can use the description to skip ahead because I'll put timestamps in there. The first thing that was going on was I was sick for like 5-10 days and family members got sick. I took care of them. So that was like some delays. Then I finally built my new PC, got it all done, up and running. So now I can do amazing editing. It's a pretty beast of a system. I'll probably do something about that later and post it for everybody if anybody's interested. Work-wise, I was on 3 incidents within 2 weeks, some capacity helping out. So it was extremely busy. I have had this video kind of planned for a while. We're going to see how it goes. It upset some people, but that's okay. This is IT Candor. Let's get into the whiteboard diagrams that I did here. I'm going to split it up. Everybody can understand. If you're a leadership person, a senior person, a non-tech person, you should be able to understand the problem. A tech person should be able to communicate to you what this stuff is for your business and your specific scenario. Why is your cybersecurity incident so expensive? And expensive is a relative term. Let's use the word expensive. Could be time. How much time it takes. Why would one company take a week and another company take 4 weeks or 6 weeks to recover from an incident? Recovering from an incident also means bringing trust back into the environment. Time is the factor, but then there's also money. Resources. You only have so many people, and most of the time your staff isn't enough people to manage a full incident for that long because these people were hired for their daily jobs, meetings, and projects that they're already working on. Those 3 things could really impact the cost and the time. In reality, the answer is this. Why is it so expensive? It's your fault. That's it. People don't want to hear that. And I don't mean you specifically. I mean the business choices and decisions and IT debt for the past 20 years. It's finally going to catch up to you. Hackers are going to use this against you and they're going to punish you for your bad choices. What I mean by bad choices is it might have been an okay choice 10 years ago. Now it's a bad choice because you're not doing something to solve the problem. And now we're going to go into story time. A real world example that everybody should be able to understand. I always like to start with the physical world and then turn it into the digital world. So let's take an example. You have a bank. There's a front door to the bank and maybe there is an alarm on that door. Then you have some tellers behind a window. Maybe they have alarms, and then there's a vault and maybe there's some type of alarm inside possibly. Then you have cameras in the lobby and you have cameras outside looking at the different perimeters of the building. Very basic security. People are coming in to rob the bank. My terrible drawing skills. Getaway car. This guy is in the lobby. This guy is looking after the tellers. Then we have like 2 dudes breaking into the vault. They're stealing from it. Then they just walk out with a nice big pile of money, and it could be jewelry, diamonds, whatever the heck they're after. They steal it. Let's ask the question. If this happened to your bank, the police show up, what do you think would happen? Well, first off, they would want all the camera footage. And not just for that day or the time the robbery happened. They might want 30, 60 days of this footage to understand, did these people try to case it out and look at your systems beforehand? We've all seen TV shows and movies about robbing banks and casing things out and planning and stuff like that. Okay, so it's a heist. They might also want to look at the license plates. So maybe they black these out and then the getaway car gets disposed somewhere else later on. And then they're going to interview everybody because they want to ask, hey, the tellers, did they know something? Maybe it was an inside job. They want to just get an understanding of, well, how did this happen so they can do their investigation? They need an inventory of what was stolen, which is very important because they might take that to local pawn shops. If you see any of these items, you're obligated to reach out to the police because you are buying stolen merchandise. So this is your business. How would you respond to it? And to make the investigation easier and hopefully be able to get the items back, let's pretend it's 2005. You have more than one bank. You have multiple branches. Somebody comes up with a great idea. Not really, but let's just say it is what it is. Let's go back to 2005 and pretend like this is earlier. Somebody made this decision. Jim's somebody who doesn't work at the bank anymore, but this was 2005 and this was his great idea. I don't know, make the business better. And he says, look, these banks are very far apart and that's inconvenient for our customers and for our staff. Well, for our customers, that's the first excuse always. We're gonna build a very quick underground railroad transportation system between these 2 vaults. Nobody in their right mind would do this, but this is what has happened in your network. I guarantee it. Now they say, well, look, this is good for customers because they don't have to get from this bank to this bank. It's 35 minutes in traffic, blah, blah, blah. But we built a system and we can get you there in 3 minutes by using the tunnel that we built underground. So let's take the same robbery scenario. And just like before, they come in here. Why don't we just go over here and steal this crap too? Because you made it easy for them. You went from this vault to this vault. So none of this security stuff does any good. Now they've just walked in and they've stolen 2 vaults. But now they've doubled their profit. Well, the police have twice the work to do. Twice the victims. All because in 2005, somebody thought this was a good idea. Obviously, it's 2023. The people who work there take advantage of this. On a normal day, the employees use this because they're like, oh, I want to go eat over at some restaurant that's here. We'll just use this and go out, and no harm because I'm an employee. I eat here and then I come back. You know, it comes to that, oh, well, it's for the business, but then there's also people abusing the system as well. And then when an adversary comes in, they abuse it. And this is just the starting point. Let me show you what it actually looks like. So this is the mess you actually have. You've created Frankenstein's monster, and in the real world, everybody would say this is the most ridiculous thing in the world. Nobody in their right mind would link up all their banks so you get into one and I can steal from all the vaults. Everybody can agree that is the most ludicrous thing ever. Bad guys here, they're stealing from you, and then they break into the vault, and guess what? They just start going every single which way. They steal from this vault, then they steal from here, they make a shortcut this way for some reason. They don't like this office. Maybe they upper deck the toilet because you have to take a bathroom break real quick from stealing all your stuff. Come back out this way and walk out. When you go to the police, everybody's like, well, how the hell did this happen? This doesn't make sense. We have the best security and blah, 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 blah. All those excuses don't mean a damn thing when it's already happened. Now you're going to say, Joel, you're crazy. I guarantee you work at a company where this is happening today. Guarantee it. I'm gonna prove it to you. Let's hit the technical stuff now. You don't believe me. I'm gonna give you the answer to this problem, but I'm not gonna be able to give you the fix. You're gonna have to figure out the fix. Tech time. So for you non-IT people, sorry, you're just gonna have to bear with me for a minute. Easy shapes. Okay, you saw this in elementary school. It's called a triangle. Active Directory, we use triangles to simulate what we call a single forest, single domain. This thing over here. What lives in this? This is where your usernames and password lives. I'm gonna keep it as simple as possible, even though more than that. But just think of it like this. Username and password. And then what does username and password do? It gives you access to things. Emails, web pages, websites, internal databases, files. So your username and password obviously is extremely important. Now we have another just example so people can understand there's not just one. There's a forest with a root and a child domain. So you still have one forest, but you have multiple domains in there. Bad history behind this. There used to be a lot of reasons why people did this. In theory, these are supposed to be boundaries, but they're not. Remember, the forest is the boundary. So there's a trust between these two, and everybody can kind of access and see everything, and then you can access and grant access and log into everything. That's just something to take note of. So you could have this scenario in your company where you have a child domain and maybe your HR, then maybe you have another one for sales or whatever. The main thing to understand here is this word trust. By default, it's built in. You can't delete it, get rid of it. It doesn't work like that because it's within the same forest. This is your bank, and this forest right here is your bank. Going back to the previous physical real world example. So let's move over. This is the more technical terms, but this would be like having two banks. You have the Contoso Active Directory, which has users and passwords, and you have this Fabricam one. You set up a trust between these two. We have multiple types of trust. Let's just start with the one that everybody does. You want to know why? Because it's easy. Right click, next, and you're done, and it guarantees it's going to work, and you don't actually have to do your job and do security, okay? This most likely is what you have. What does this mean? This is the two banks. You know the example I showed a minute ago where you can go from one bank to the other just like that, very, very easily? This is what you have. And I guarantee in your company, you will have more than one Active Directory. Could you do it a little better? You could do a one-way from Contoso to Fabricam or a one-way from Fabricam to Contoso. The difference in this scenario would be one trusts the other. They don't trust each other. It would reduce the risk. It would reduce the impact. But if the one that is trusted gets popped, the other one will have to do an investigation as well, especially if you're investigating. If the logs say, hey, something happened over there, then you should look into it. I'm not saying you have to do both. Good practices, if the logs and the investigation are saying, hey, it happened here, it's there. And if you have piss poor security here, guarantee you have piss poor security here. If you're doing dumb things here, probably doing dumb things here. Call it what it is. Doesn't matter who trusts who. Bad process is bad process. An incident's been confirmed in the contoso.com domain. Because there's a two-way trust, this becomes untrusted. And then we'll go through the logs, verify, did this compromise, did this breach, did it move from here to here, and is Fabricam now compromised? And then we go through the logs over there and try to bring this back to a trusted state, and then eventually bring the Contoso back to a trusted state. You can't just ignore this. Even if the logs don't tell you it went over there, sometimes the logs might not even exist anymore. You might only keep logs for 6 months. We might have evidence that go back 8 months or 12 months that they've been in this environment, and though you don't know, so you're going to have to do a decent investigation to see what's going on in there and hardening. So even if you say, oh, well, there was no evidence that it happened here, the improvements you do here, you're probably going to want to do the same improvements here, because if you make this more difficult to get into, then they're going to choose this one to break into because it's easier for them. So you can't just harden one, you're going to have to improve both. You're going to have to change the process with both to get it to like this. Let's take the scenario where you don't have any trust. No two-way, no one-way. Contoso's compromised. Guess what happens to Fabricam? It's still trusted. Why is it still trusted? Well, there's no way to go from the breach in Contoso to Fabricam because they're not trusted. They're not talking to each other, not overly integrated. So it goes back to our first example of there are two banks, bank one, bank two. They are independent of each other. These two vaults aren't connected. You can't easily get to these two vaults. You have to go from this one and physically go to the other bank and get access to this vault. This is what you want. This reduces your cost, reduces your time, reduces your impact. Over here, you're always going to be fighting the fire. You're always going to be struggling. Always going to cost you the most money. Get rid of that trust. Let's talk real world numbers. Obviously, I can't give you exact specifics, exact names. You have this bad habit. You have this problem. You have this thing happening in your environment. 6 months, 8 customers, average of 5 plus forest involved in the incidents. That's expensive time. Everything just falls apart. It's too much. I would say over the past 2 years, I can think of 3 customers that had at least 25 forest or more. Trust all over the damn place. Take it one step further. I had one customer, over 100 plus domains in the past 2 years. Trust all over the place. It was a wreck. You're going to say, Joel, not me. No, we're perfect. Okay, look, I'm going to be frank with you. I would love for you to be perfect, but Active Directory is a mess. It is abused. It is screwed up in most places. It's going to continue to bite you. You're going to wonder why it's so expensive, why it costs so much money. This right here, this Frankenstein's monster you've created with trust all over the place, and nobody's doing the right thing, which is cleaning it up, getting rid of it. So let me give you some more fun facts. I guarantee most people, AWS, in their public documentation, this is what it says. So if you use AWS and you set up the integration, their public documentation tells you to put a two-way trust. I'm going to say this because I don't care. That is wrong. There's no need for that. If you are going to use AWS, you got to find a way to get it down to a one-way trust. Why do people do this? Because it's easy. Because it's just, if you do this, it guarantees it's going to work. Versus if you do a one-way, you might have to troubleshoot a bit more. It might be more complicated, but this just guarantees it works. But this is bad. This isn't how you do this. So let's start with a real-world example. When I met a friend of mine, Matt Hitchcock, you guys check him out on LinkedIn, his job was doing nothing but AD migrations, full-time for like 4 years. Crazy, sick number. Over 4,000 domains. The company made a goal to get it down to 18. So they got down to 81. It wasn't easy. It wasn't cheap. Hopefully they got to 18. Don't know. Maybe I can call and find somebody, but that's not the point. The point here is somebody had to sit down, take ownership, take leadership decision, get involved, and start fixing the problem. 4,500 tunnels to go through and steal everything. It's too much and it's impossible to figure out. It's going to cost you everything at the end of the day. So getting the number down is going to really improve your cybersecurity at your business. I want to draw one other little thing for you guys. I want to go back to this mess. And here's what's happening. Our company uses AWS, Azure, GCP. We just needed to set this up because the business wanted it and we were getting yelled at. And so this is what we did. Just do that, and we'll just do that. Then we'll do this, and then this, and then this, and then this. You've only taken your piss poor bad habits on premise and taken it to the cloud. And I gotta say this, one of the incidents, we watched the adversary walk through both environments like it was nothing. They went from AWS back to on-premise, up to Azure, back to on-premise. They were basically doing whatever the hell they wanted with the environment. And I guarantee you need to do the right thing. This is only going to get worse. You need to start carving this stuff up. You need to start getting rid of these trusts. You need to start making it smaller. And then frankly speaking, you don't need 20 domains. Whoever has 20 domains, you have failed. I'm going to say that directly. And if it pisses you off, good. Do something about it. Prove me wrong that you need 20 domains. You don't. Adversary is going to walk all over you, and it's only going to get more expensive. It's not going to get easier. The risk isn't going to get any better. The US just passed the law with the SEC, how you have to start disclosing this stuff. If you have 20 domains, the chance that one of them is going to get hit on a Tuesday goes up. So my advice, go in tomorrow. If you are a senior leadership person, here's your question. How many domains and forests do we have? Next question. What's the plan to get rid of 99% of them? I'm going to give you one more thing. I'm being a jerk here because this problem is never going to end. New policy. Do not create another domain. IT people aren't going to like this. Tech people aren't going to like this. Business people like this. But this is IT candor. Nobody else is going to be honest with you. I am. This mess has to stop. I literally see this all the time. And I've been doing AD for a very long time. And this is only getting worse. It's not getting any better. What the heck was that? I was at a company. There was a domain over there. We're like, what is it? We don't know. I've actually heard that on so many, I think at least 10 times. Nobody knows what the hell the domain is. Nobody knows what it's doing. Or, oh, well, we were going to shut it down. It has been 3 years. Please do yourself a favor. Understand this mess and start fixing it. With that, this is IT Candor. I'm going to try to do another video much, much sooner. And with that, have a good day.